the reason behind why people are on LinkedIn is that they want to be better as professionals. They want to learn more information. They want to, of course, connect with other people, like-minded people, but they want to be a better professional, so to speak. And if you continue to feed the target audience with updated content or fresh content, that's when they learn stuff. And that's when they get more and more interested. And that's where the kind of learning curve before I, as a member, if I'm in a target group, act on something or engage. So the more information I receive in my feed from company X, Y, Z, the faster I will most likely convert or engage with the content that they put out. So yes, you need a mix. And when we're talking about what type of content as an example, I think it's important, even though that it is the brand itself that is most often posting stuff on LinkedIn, it's often people behind those brands. And we always say is that people trust people, not brands. It's an old thing to say, yes, but it's so true. And the more information we put out there that I can learn, the more I will adopt towards this brand that is trying to sell me something.
All right, welcome to today's episode of VidTao Podcast. This is VidTao Co-Founder Ian Nagy, and today we're going to be talking to Mr. Fredrik Vikström. So Fredrik is the co-founder of Brand Runner, a LinkedIn ads specialist agency. Last year, he managed $20 million in LinkedIn advertising just in Sweden. So that's a country of 12 million people. So Fredrik has done a tremendous amount of work with LinkedIn over the past 8 years, working for a lot of the world's biggest companies and a lot of smaller companies in the B2B space. And so I think anyone who has a B2B element to their business, so agency owners talking to you, I think you're going to find this really, really valuable. We're going to go over the 3 stages of LinkedIn advertising and how Fredrik thinks about targeting on LinkedIn and really just helping you to understand the potential that this platform offers. Really can't wait to share this episode with you. So let's dive in. This podcast is brought to you by VidTao.com. VidTao is our free YouTube ad library and spy tool, research tool. It's VidTao.com. At VidTao, we have close to 1 million unlisted YouTube video ads that you can search, find, discover how they're doing on a day-by-day basis. So you can really see what ads your competitors are running, see ads in different markets that you can model to create new winning ads for yourself, and a whole lot more. It's all there inside VidTao.com. Plus, we have a premium edition. So the database is free to access, but then we also have a premium edition where you have full unlimited access to the database. And inside there, we also provide training. So we also run an agency called Inceptly. That's INCEPTLY, Inceptly.com, where we've managed over $150 million on YouTube. It's a video traffic agency, and we've worked with everyone from brands like Descript.com, Huel, to real scrappy direct response, info products, supplements, health, beauty, e-commerce, you name it, we've done it, and love sharing what we've learned. Every week we drop new training in there, everything from YouTube ad media buying to running e-commerce creatives on YouTube, to hardcore tracking and attribution tutorials to really level up your data science game for advertising, and everything in between. Right now, as we speak, we're working on a training regarding YouTube Shorts. Hopefully we'll be live by the time you hear this. On and on and on. This is our passion, is video advertising, and we want to share it with you inside of VidTao Premium. And actually right now, for a limited time, you can get access to VidTao Premium for a very special price. So if you go to VidTao.com, sign up for free, check out the database, upgrade to Premium for this very special price, so you get access to all of the database and all the trainings. And also wanted to add that at Inceptly, we do free brainstorm calls with clients like you. So if you ever want to get help or ask questions about your YouTube ads, your video traffic on other platforms, we're available to chat. Just go to inceptly.com/call, CALL, and set up a time to chat. It's free, and would love to speak with you. Our team's waiting to speak with you. So without further ado, let's get into the show. Fredrik, welcome to the show from cold Stockholm.
Thank you so much, Ian. Yeah. It's like 3 degrees outside.
Okay. So
and dark.
Yeah, and dark. And so Is the snow melting, or is there still snow? What's the situation?
You know what? I live in Stockholm. Like, it's the middle part of Sweden. There is no snow. We get maybe like 2 to 4 days per year per winter with snow. Otherwise, it's just cold and just crappy weather, to be honest. Don't come to Stockholm in the winter.
So more time for you to sit in front of the computer and figure out ways to make money with LinkedIn. So,
oh yes, much better.
Nice. So yeah, so I know we've had a few conversations, not recorded, but I've just been really impressed with everything that you're doing with LinkedIn advertising specifically. And you've been doing this for almost a decade now. So you've seen the ups and downs and the different changes. And, coming from the space where we come from for our agency and direct response marketing, I don't really know anyone doing LinkedIn ads, and I know that what's crazy is, you've brought this up to me and made me aware of it, is just the incredible volume of first-party data that LinkedIn has in this era of iOS updates and cookieless tracking, where we can't really rely on these data providers anymore. LinkedIn, people are willingly telling LinkedIn all this, and then it's at your fingertips. So, yeah, what is the potential with LinkedIn ads? I mean, just what's the opportunity? And I'd just love to just start diving into what you see as the vision when you come to talking to a company and pitching them on the possibility of LinkedIn. What kind of possibilities do you typically paint?
Well, where to start? I think that LinkedIn is a platform that is heavily underestimated, to be honest. I think that a lot of the campaigns running today, I mean, as I said, I'm from Sweden. There's, of course, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc., and LinkedIn. A lot of the campaigns are B2C. And I think that one of the biggest potentials that LinkedIn has is, back to what you just said, Ian, is the first-party data, the actual the updated data that is available for targeting, and that I don't think people understand the value. We talk about data every day, of course, but the value of data and first-party data in this case, where all the information that companies use to target other professionals is based out of your own LinkedIn profile. Okay, so the LinkedIn data that you enter yourself. And I think that the difference is that if you would have a profile on another social media platform, the information that you have there is not always, of course, but in most times it's not updated. I think I had on my Facebook profile worked at Vodafone like 50 years ago, still there. So when you have a LinkedIn profile, that's kind of your shopping window to other employers, other companies, and clients, of course. So it's super important that you keep your profile updated and refreshed, so that every time you change your job or career, you get a diploma for something or whatever it might be, you want to highlight that on your LinkedIn profile, because that stands out, and you can show other companies, other clients, look what I have, look what my skills are, and so on. So the data is extremely updated, and that's what we use to target other professionals with. And I think that's, when it comes to business or B2B, I think that's where it's, I don't think companies really understand how much fresh and updated information we have. And as you just mentioned regarding tracking, we have, of course, that in Sweden as well, that like a lot of companies, a high volume of companies have decided just to get rid of tracking, period, due to different laws. And of course, LinkedIn have been affected somewhat, but you can still use the data that you have in your LinkedIn profile because it's updated. So I think that it's the possibility to reach these decision makers, I would say, is spot on LinkedIn compared to other social media platforms. And you can reach the influencers of those decisions as well in a really, really targeted way, really simple way. So I think that's what stands out the most, the quality of the data.
Nice. So when it comes to reaching out to decision makers and decision maker influencers, their circle of influence and advisory, what's your approach? So I think a lot of more inexperienced or just maybe B2C fixated advertisers are thinking, okay, I need to get to sales calls with decision makers. So therefore, let's go after leads. Here's my list. Let's fire away. How do you approach it? Like, what's your strategic thinking and the steps involved in getting to that decision and having a positive outcome?
I mean, first of all, and that's I'm not gonna be long about this, but the first thing is that leads is also something that a lot of companies, I'm not saying all companies, but a lot of companies, they understand roughly what LinkedIn is when it comes to what kind of social media platform it is and so on. But it's a lot of companies tend to turn the kind of the marketing funnel upside down, meaning that they, as you just explained, they want leads. So they start firing away right away with trying to target decision makers. And when they do that, first of all, they often target the person that has the highest seniority in the company. It could be the CFO, CEO, and so on. And the thing about this is that, first of all, the more seniority you have, the less time you have to spend on social media, meaning they are so much harder to reach. So you have to influence the people around that person, he or she. So that's what's most important, that you need a buyer group. You need to look at, like, if your company needs to implement a CRM system, you cannot only target the CFO because he or she has the money, or the CEO because he is the final decision maker. You have to target the CTO and the people around him, the sales department that needs to work with the system, the project manager. It could be all these kinds of people around the CEO, so to speak. And that's, I think, is the biggest difference when you need to how to understand how LinkedIn works, how the ecosystem works, how to find, how to kind of, how should I explain, how to penetrate through the layer of other people trying to reach the same person. So if you can influence them, it's so much easier for them to influence the last decision maker, in this case the CEO or the CFO. So I think that's something that we talk a lot about, trying to find a buyer group within decision making. And when it comes to trying to get leads, I kind of often say this as an example, that let's say that you are scrolling through your LinkedIn feed, and you see a company, XYZ.com, they're trying to sell you something, software, program, whatever it might be. So if you haven't heard about them before, or if you might have heard of them sometime, but you're not interested in buying their CRM system or their software at this moment because you're not there. You have no idea what the costs are. You have no idea what the upsides are of this program or software, etc., etc. And this is where the branding phase comes in when we're talking about the marketing funnel. Like, so many companies, they believe, my words, of course, a little bit too much about themselves sometimes, that they need to understand that even though that their own clients or people around them know who they are, it's not certain that people in European countries or in the US, they're looking at where I'm situated, knows who they are. So you have to talk about who are we as a company, what can we do, what type of problems can we solve, etc., etc. And that's the phase that you have to use. You have to build that up for perhaps a couple of months. And when you've done that, when you nurture them enough, you can go into more the kind of consideration phase, try to impact them in showing them different demos, or they can go to the website and so on. And after, depending on the sales cycle, of course, 4 to 6 or 8 to 10 months or something, that's when it comes down to the lower part of the funnel where you convert them to leads. So it takes time, and I think that in order to understand LinkedIn, in order to succeed on LinkedIn, you have to think long term. It's companies with the mindset that we want return on our investments within 3 weeks or 1 month or whatever it might be. It might be possible, but it depends on objectives and KPIs and so on. But you have to think long term. You have to build your brand on LinkedIn long term. So I think that's one of the most important things to address.
Very interesting. So in terms of the 3 phases, so you talked about the branding phase, consideration phase, and then more of the conversion phase. So I'm just curious. So it sounds like first step is you've identified this buyers group, sort of surrounding for this particular account. And then how do you, so in terms of, let's look at the first phase, the branding phase. So what type of assets are you putting out there for branding? What have you seen? What would you recommend just generally? And then what sort of metrics are you looking at in terms of evaluating how effective that branding phase it is, during that 2, 3, 4 week, 2 month branding period? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that typical content or assets in this case is, again, general stuff, meaning that we need to put out things that can reach a broader audience. So we can have branding content or branding assets for more, how should I say, focused area target groups as well. But the main thing needs to be pretty broad, so we can reach a lot of people. And again, it has to be something that everyone can understand. There's no idea. I don't think it's an idea to talk about the complexity of a specific product or software, because that's too niche. We have to talk broadly about the company. What can we do to solve the problems that occur in our industry, etc., etc. That's the type of things that people would like to know and understand more about. Talk about 3 tips on how to scale X, Y, Z, and so on. So that's the type of typical content. And looking at like what we look at, it depends a little bit about the objective, of course, and the KPIs that the client has. But if we look long term, one thing that, which is quite funny sometimes, one thing that people or clients often talk about is that the prices on LinkedIn is so high if you compare to other social media platforms. And it's like, yes, but it depends on what you want. So again, about the targeting, LinkedIn can find the specific job title that you're looking for if you want, but you have to be prepared to pay for it, so to speak. But again, back to the question. So one thing that we talk about is the CPR price, to try to see if we can get that lowered more and more, and to be able to find the stability in the pricing, either if it's cost per mail or CTR, whatever it might be, cost per click. We need to look at having enough assets regularly to be shown towards the target group. So we and LinkedIn, of course, recommend, I think, about 3 to 5 assets, I would say, per week that runs all the time. That in a perfect world. Not all companies do that, of course. It could be that they don't have enough content on their website, or that they have some companies struggle with, we don't have LinkedIn content. which I think is quite funny because there's no such thing as LinkedIn content. There is content, and then you have to just understand how to kind of leverage the content that you have and put it out on LinkedIn. So yes, there are small things you can do, tweak, a couple of things you can tweak and so on, of course, to make it more LinkedIn. But in general, content is content. When we have enough assets running on these campaigns, that's when we get to a point where people don't get tired, or the audience that receive these content pieces do not get tired of looking at the same piece of content every time. And because it's always interesting in the beginning, and then if you see the same thing week after week, month after month, you're going to stop looking. So, the reason behind why people are on LinkedIn is that they want to be better as professionals. They want to learn more information. They want to, of course, connect with other people, like-minded people, but they want to be a better professional, so to speak. And if you continue to feed the target audience with updated content or fresh content, that's when they learn stuff, and that's when they get more and more interested. And that's where the kind of learning curve before I, as a member, if I'm in a target group, act on something or engage. So the more information I receive in my feed from company X, Y, Z, the faster I will most likely convert or engage with the content that they put out. So yes, you need a mix. And when we're talking about, what type of content, as an example, I think it's important, even though that it is the brand itself that is most often posting stuff on LinkedIn, it's often people behind those brands. And kind of a thing that we always say is that people trust people, not brands. It's an old thing to say, yes, but it's so true. And the more information we put out there that I can learn, the more I will adopt towards this brand that is trying to sell me something.
Got it. So basically, are you looking for in that content? Is there an opportunity for the consumer or the person, the product in that potential user group, client group? Is there an opportunity for them to convert, or is it just pure content? Just, hey, here are these 3 tips, and then that's it. And in that phase, are you just looking? Sounds like you're just looking for eyeballs, and then at a certain point.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. So in the beginning, that's totally correct. So in the beginning, I would say that, the branding part is based on impressions, meaning that the purpose of those types of ads is not to have people convert and click to a landing page, as an example. So, single image ads and video ads is something that is preferable for the branding part. If you go down the funnel, if you go to the bid part of the funnel, where it's more kind of the engagement part, where you want people to engage, to like, to click, to comment, to go to the landing page, etc., etc. That's where you kind of more and more get them to understand more about the product or the company, or wherever it might be. So it is, again, it's a long-term phase, and it's when it comes down to more of the bottom part of the marketing funnel, where you can actually see more of a conversion. But again, depends on what type of KPIs you have, what you're measuring, what you're looking at. So we have had definitely companies that their only focus is to have leads, and we have had companies that their only focus is for the first year at least to run brand awareness campaigns, period, nothing else. They don't care about having people following them or having people go to the landing page, because their only focus is to build their brand. And that's also something that I did a piece on. It was not, I haven't done myself, but it was from the B2B Institute, which is a think tank from that is funded by LinkedIn. They had an interesting piece on advertising in recession. So when kind of a different area, but super quickly about this is that what companies do now is that they kind of pull the handbrake because they need to save money. So what they do is that most often the marketing budget is the ones that is going to be stopped. But the thing is that, especially the branding budgets, I would say, the branding budgets, because we need to focus on leads, we need to focus on conversions, we need to get more kind of short-term activations going on here. So the thing about that is that when they remove the brand budgets, that has a bad effect in the long term, where their brand is not visible. So it's so much more better to keep doing, in this case, LinkedIn ads. When it comes to marketing, doing LinkedIn ads, continue to do that and try to kind of raise your share of voice, whilst other companies are putting the handbrake. So there's more space for you to be seen in during this recession if you continue to do LinkedIn marketing.
Right, makes sense.
A little bit outside the subject here, but I just wanted to add that.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, and also, the traffic is going to be cheaper, less demand, and it's an opportunity. If you can invest, definitely can. Seems like what you're saying sounds very reasonable, that you can sort of take over more mind share, because more people, there's a sort of a mind share vacuum, I guess.
Yeah. And of course, this is not only for LinkedIn, but since we're talking about LinkedIn in this case,
Yeah, cool. So basically, we're at the branding phase, basically. So you're looking to basically make sure that, I guess what's interesting is that you're looking at it from an impression standpoint, but then basically your targeting is so defined that if it's showing up, exactly who it's showing up in front of, and therefore there's been some kind of basic first contact that's taken place. So you have. I mean, are you aiming for some, like, if you had, let's say you have an audience of 1,000 really tightly targeted people, are you looking for any sort of number of impressions during that branding phase? Like, is it a certain number of exposures you want to see per audience member? Anything like that?
We talk a little bit about frequency, not just a little bit, but meaning that LinkedIn had a study previously that said that you need to have you need your brand to be seen up to 10 times before someone engages with your content, so to speak, or making a decision. So kind of what this means is that you have to. I as a company, I'm not going to get any value from showing my ads or my assets 1 or 2 times per month to you, as an example. You're not going to buy my stuff. You're not going to invest in me as a company because you know too little about me. So we talk about having a frequency, or meaning that you need to see my company's ads at least 4 to 6 times a month. That's, I would say, kind of a minimum. So that's what we look at as well. That if the frequency is too low, you're not showcasing your company enough for people to remember it in the future. So that's one thing I'd like to mention at least.
Nice. That's a great metric to think of. So we got the branding phase basically. So we have these, say, 3 to 5 new pieces of content every week going out to this audience, and then trying to make sure that over the course of a month, they're seeing it 6 times, maybe 10 times. Yeah. And then, so at what point do you start to feed in or initiate campaigns that perhaps are maybe asking for them to click through? Actually, if I could back up, the content you're describing for branding phase, is that a specific type of content on LinkedIn, like articles or posts typically?
It's of course, it could be articles as well, but I would say that you have to keep in mind that if you want to do branding, or if you want to be seen on LinkedIn, I would say in general, I think that's a better word, is that you have to keep it short. And against it, this is not only for LinkedIn, of course, but if you have too much information, no one will read it. That's just the way it is. So you have to have, I think that, I don't have the exact numbers in my head, but like 150, 175 characters or something on your post. You have to keep it short and sweet. People want to read stuff that takes I don't know exactly how many seconds you have according to different studies, but it's like 1, maybe 2 seconds or something before you lose interest. So you have to have something short. So I would say anything that will have that makes me as a member too quick to go somewhere else to read something, I think kind of lost that person already. You have to have something short and sweet, like a quick takeaway or a statement or something like that, that people can read pretty quickly, so to speak.
Got it. Okay, so that's the branding phase, and then so at what point? So is it once you've hit that, let's say that frequency for that audience, then you start to incorporate what kind for the consideration phase? What sort of content do you start to incorporate, and what kind of KPIs are you looking for there?
So I would say that when it comes to content-wise, it could be anything from the different demos of the software, the product that the company is trying to market. It could be blog posts. It could be stuff happening on the landing page. You could have different types of seminars or invites to seminars, meaning you can register here to listen in to seminar X, Y, and so on, which is free, of course. That's also something that just a small thing, but to try to keep stuff free as long as possible, not to charge people when they're in the middle of the phase. So all types of stuff that keeps people interested and wanting to know more. How can my company benefit from this product or software, whatever it might be? Can you send me a demo? Yes, we can. Here's a 30-day trial or whatever it might be. Stuff like that keeps me interested and makes me want to talk to not just the CEO, but all people involved in the decision making. So I think that that's the kind of type of content that is important to have when moving them from the kind of the awareness phase down to the consideration or engagement phase. And looking at the KPIs again, depends a little bit on the client, but I think more. Just thinking about what the best KPIs could be.
I'm sure it's client dependent. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good one. Should be crystal clear for me, of course, to know that. But how many people that have attended a seminar, as an example? It could be like engagement in general, new followers. It could be many things, of course, and it's again, it's quite often that when we talk to clients and we do some kind of strategy with them, it's often case by case with different clients on what they want, what matters for them. So kind of broad answer from me, unfortunately, but yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So basically, we have the branding phase, and then this consideration phase where there sounds like there could be some conversions happening. And then at what point do you start to, I mean, maybe this, go for the jugular, so to speak, and try and get, or really make it clear that there's some kind of transaction to take place in terms of getting on a sales call or getting on a demo, or at what point is it the right time to start to introduce that kind of messaging in the ads?
I think that I'm just thinking. I'm trying to see if I can come up with an example from a client.
Or I actually have another question, Fredrik, just to add for some context. Or is it the case that, when you're investing all this energy and brain power in making really good content for the branding phase and consideration phase, does the sort of conversion element take place like via Google search or via, just more ambiently? Just curious about that, because I'll say this, like, for people listening. So Fredrik, you told me some stats that are pretty incredible in our earlier conversations. So you've been doing this for, I think, like 8 years, something like that. And I think your client churn rate. What was your client churn rate again?
It's extremely low. Apart from some smaller clients, it's I don't know, 5 or 10 maybe, or something like that. It's very, very little. Of course, I'm taking away some super small clients that are spending a couple $100 but per year. But so it's and I think it's back to when companies understand the true value of LinkedIn as a platform, especially when we talk about marketing, at least, which is one that I've been working with. It's hard to just leave it, just to like, okay, let's move. We've tried it. Let's move on. I think the only companies that haven't been like super pleased are the ones that their only focus is price. That's their only focus, and they haven't understand, or they're not willing to understand how to work with LinkedIn. They need to accept that to be able to succeed with the platform on LinkedIn, you need to invest both time, of course, and money. But you have to think long term, and those types of companies often want a short term kind of results. It has been an amazing journey last 8 years, and that's why we started this consultancy business now in January, because we want to continue to grow, I would say, the knowledge about LinkedIn marketing solutions here in Sweden, in the Nordics, and abroad, and help LinkedIn as a company also to kind of spread the word, because there's too many companies using, I'm going to say, other platforms where they need to use LinkedIn, because that's where the decision makers are.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, you bring up something about, some companies, maybe they try LinkedIn and then they're maybe get a little bit impatient with, let's say, results, like, there's this long build up, and you're putting out these assets to be in the environment around these people who you want to influence and build relationships with. But most of these companies, and I know a lot of companies who would fit that description, they have social media teams who are basically like kind of, in many cases doing a great job making content, but in terms of the distribution, it is a little bit random. Whereas what you're talking about is you're leveraging all this first party data to actually make sure that every time someone sees the post from that your social media team has invested time to make pretty and make really impactful, that it's going in front of people who you want it to see. So in a way, it's like I feel like there's sort of a disconnect there. And again, getting back to one of your main points, it's a lot of people don't really understand the power that you have because of all this data that LinkedIn has. And if you're savvy and work with someone like yourself and your team, you can really leverage all that to make sure all the eyeballs that are falling on, that are seeing your posts, are the eyeballs you want to be looking at it.
And there's, what's interesting is that there's so many times where we kind of come across I would say campaigns from other clients or agencies where like the targeting is so off, it's unbelievable, and they're just, to be honest, wasting money. Unless you use LinkedIn targeting in the way it should be used, it's not going to work for you. If you target, 2.4 million people when you should be targeting maybe 100,000 or less. Of course, it's important. You need to go broad if you want to reach broad, but you have to, same time, keep in mind that like it has to be relevant. And that's the purpose for LinkedIn, and that's why we have these targeting capabilities, and that's why we have these the data that LinkedIn offers to use them correctly. So I think that there's so much potential with B2B companies to use LinkedIn, and I think that there's too many companies today that are using other social media platforms, but they should be using LinkedIn instead of trying to go super wide and hopefully find that person that is responsible in that target audience using other social media platforms. So yes, LinkedIn could be considered as a bit more expensive per click, per impression, etc. But if you do the right way, you get so much more out of it than using other platforms. So there's a lot of untapped potential.
And then over the 8 years you've been doing this, I mean, what kind of budgets have you managed, basically? Would you say?
Anything from, I'm not gonna say the clients' names, but anything from I would say $5,000 up to $3 million. So everything in between. I think that the reason why we succeeded in my team previously was that we had a mix of all. We didn't focus only on the big spenders or only on the smaller ones, etc. We had a mix of all. So that's what really got us through COVID, as an example, where many bigger companies pulled the handbrake. Yeah.
So basically, are you and your team is basically you strategize with the client to identify the best content for LinkedIn, or how's it typically work?
So not just content, of course. I mean, we're trying to see the big picture. Of course, content, that's one thing that's important, but also strategy, and not just the paid part. We're trying to look at the organic part as well, because I think that a lot of companies, there's a lot of potential on growing your followers if that's a KPI, using organic content on LinkedIn. So we're talking about both the paid part and the organic part as well, and how to get those measurements or those KPIs that clients have aligned with the strategy they have, and of course with the budget they have. I mean, there's one thing to have a goal of 100,000 followers, but if you don't have the budget or the strategy to reach that goal, it's going to be hard, of course.
Got it. Makes sense. So what are you most excited about? I know that you just launched an entirely new sort of spin-off that is like you have basically the special forces of LinkedIn advertising that you've assembled. And so what are you most excited about for 2023 with you and your team?
To my super simple answer is actually and this is what I told LinkedIn today as well when I met them here in Stockholm at their office, is to continue to expanding the knowledge about LinkedIn, the LinkedIn platform, but primarily in this case LinkedIn marketing solutions, because you have the talent solutions as well and the sales solutions part, but for the marketing side of their business, to continue to educate and train other companies on how to use LinkedIn. It sounds corny, but that's what we're looking mostly forward to this year.
Amazing. And so, where can people learn, like B2B companies? I know there's a bunch of agencies in our audience. I think this is tailor-made for agencies who might be trying all sorts of different strategies. This makes so much sense as something that you need to incorporate because your customers are right there on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So where can people get a hold of you and continue this conversation specific to their needs and get in touch?
So our company that we founded just like 2 weeks ago is called Brand Runner. So of course, shoot me an email at Fredrik with a K on it at the end, Fredrik@brandrunner.se. And if you would like, I can point you to, I know that LinkedIn has a ton of information for agencies as well. That is super, super useful. And as an agency, you can also get a certification of your skills in LinkedIn, which is super handy to have on your LinkedIn profile, of course.
Nice. Fantastic, Fredrik. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And looking forward to watching your journey this year and beyond, seeing what you do on LinkedIn. It's really exciting.
Thank you so much, Ian. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of VidTao Podcast. Again, my name is Ian Nagy, co-founder of VidTao, and really appreciate you having a listen. And it means a lot. So if you have any feedback, go ahead and email us at info@vidtao.com. Love to hear your ideas for future shows, future guests. If you want to be a guest, let us know. Love to chat. Also, just as a reminder, this show has been sponsored by VidTao, which is our free YouTube ad library. VidTao.com. Again, you can go to VidTao and look up over 1 million ads at this point inside of VidTao. They're all unlisted YouTube ads. You can see what your competitors are running, track their results on a day-by-day basis, find new ads inside of our YouTube ad library, VidTao. And we also have a premium edition of VidTao. So the library is free to access, but for full unlimited access to the library, we have a premium edition of VidTao. We also have training from our Inceptly.com agency, which is our sister company to VidTao, where we've managed over $150 million on YouTube. We provide training on media buying, creatives, tracking, copywriting, everything in between. It's all there inside of VidTao Premium. And right now we're running a very special deal on VidTao Premium. And you can go claim that right now at VidTao.com. When you sign up for free, you'll see the offer to join Premium. And go there and check that out. And last thing, we also do free brainstorm calls with our agency Inceptly. Go to inceptly.com/call. And we love brainstorming with you on your video advertising and just marketing in general. Love to chat. So inceptly.com/call, CALL. Would love to speak with you. So thanks again for joining us and looking forward to the next show. In the meantime, have a great week.